Microphone test, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll begin the meeting in 1 minute. If members of council could take their seats, on va commencer la réunion dans 1 minute. Merci. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to begin the meeting of Ottawa City Council. C'est le 24 avril 2013. I could ask members of the audience to please take their seats as well as the council. And for those who are able to, would you please rise for prayer and remain standing for the singing of our national anthem. Almighty God, let us work together to serve all our people. Dieu Tout-Puissant, aidez-nous à travailler ensemble afin de bien servir nos citoyens. At this time, we would take a moment to recognize the late Michael Denny, Captain Michael Denny, who was a Gloucester City Councillor who passed away on March 20th. After retiring from a 37-year naval career, Mr. Denny was elected to City Council in 1988, where he served for 9 years. After a
37-year career in the Navy, he was elected to the Gloucester City Council in 1988, where he served for 9 years.
Mr. Denny served on a variety of boards in the Gloucester area, including the Rothwell United Church. He is survived by his best friend and wife of 47 years, Carol, his son, Brad, married to Kate, and grandsons, Scott and Ian. I now ask that we observe a moment of silence with respect to Mr. Denny and the great work that he did in the community of Gloucester. Merci. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to ask Councillor Jan Harder, who has a special guest here, to perform our nation's anthem. Councillor Harder, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and very pleased today to introduce Keely Basna. Keely Basna, I'm sharing this honour with Councillor DeRoche because while Keely lives in Barrhaven, she lives on his side of Barrhaven, and she attends St. Andrew's School with 3 of my grandchildren and is a really good friend of my granddaughter Mary. They're in the same grade 5 at St. Andrew's Catholic School. You might know her name, Basna, because her dad owns Basna Insurance, which is a business in my part of Barrhaven. Her mom is also the trustee for the Ottawa Catholic Board, Alison Basna, and both of them aren't able to be here today, if you can believe it. She's here with her nana, her papa and her nana, and they are currently at LAX trying to get their computer to get us live. So I'm hoping that they're successful with that. Keely has been attending the Barrhaven Music Academy for 2 years, taking piano and voice, and she has a wide variety of interests. She plays hockey for the Wildcats, Adam, and often at the Nepean Sportsplex, she was telling Councillor Eglai. And she's been playing hockey in Nepean for 6 years. She's involved in a lot of fundraising because her parents are as well, so she follows and leads by example, and she'll be running the 5K in the Barrhaven Rogers Run. Her dad's one of the founding members. So Keely comes from strong roots, and she's going to do her rendition of O Canada for us today.
Well, that was great, Kaylee. Thank you very, very much. And I think you, Jan, Kaylee might be the youngest member who's performed O Canada this term of council. So congratulations. You did a great job, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of the DVD if your parents weren't able to see it. So thank you again very much for coming forward. Appreciate it. At this time in our meetings program, it's our opportunity to recognize an individual in our community who has done good work with the Mayor's City Builder Award. And I'd invite Monsieur Gilles Lavasseur to join me for the special presentation, and aussi son membre du conseil, Monsieur Peter Hume.
And Mr. Peter Hume, his counselor.
Join us as well to recognize Gilles. Bienvenue. Merci d'accepter notre invitation.
Welcome. Thanks for accepting our invitation.
Monsieur Lavasseur est un champion de...
Mr. Levasseur is a champion for French in Ottawa.
Il organise sont notamment la Fondation Franco-Ontarienne.
His organizations include the Franco-Ontario Foundation, the Ontario Cooperative Council, that he chairs, and the Francophone Authors Association.
Devotion to Ottawa's French community that serves to inspire his colleagues and promote the interests of French speakers in Ottawa. Monsieur Lavasseur is also heavily involved in the arts. He's played an active role at the Théâtre de la Catapulte and also serves on the board of directors of Opera Lyra. Opera Lyra is one of the great cultural gems in our city, and the volunteers and board members like Mr. Lavasseur deserve a lot of credit for building it to the level at which it now sits. Opera Lyra est l'une des...
Opera Lyra is one of the great cultural gems in our city, and the volunteers and board members like Mr. Levasseur deserve a lot of credit for building it to the level at which it now sits.
Aujourd'hui. I participated in their I'm Going to the Opera campaign along with our Deputy Mayor Eli L. Shantiri, and was really impressed at how well Opera Lyra has engaged with the civic and business communities to promote opera in Ottawa. The arts community in Ottawa is a strong one, and we have a great deal of thanks owed to volunteers like Monsieur Lavasseur, who do the essential work to ensure that it continues to thrive in all parts of the city.
The arts community in Ottawa is a strong one, and we owe a great deal of thanks to the volunteers like Monsieur Levasseur, who do the essential work for it to continue to thrive.
In promoting the arts and the interests of the French language community in Ottawa, I'm very happy, along with your city councillor, Councillor Hume, to present you with the Mayor's City Builder Award. Pour votre magnifique travail
For your great work in promoting both the arts and the interests of the French language community in Ottawa, I'm happy to award you today the Mayor's City Builder Award. Congratulations.
Monsieur le maire, Monsieur le conseiller municipal,
Mr. Mayor and councillors, I'd like to take this time to thank you for this honor today. Even if we succeed in our community, we have the opportunity to be exposed to various social events, and my wife and others, volunteers, Valerie, Sophie, thank you very much for everything you do. And it's thanks to our family that I can get involved. I'm very proud to be a Francophone and to be active in the community in the city of Ottawa. We've done a lot in order to live in French in Ottawa. So I'd like to take this time to thank you.
to support the artistic community, the cultural cultivity, because a city lives and grows because of its cultural activities. Arts and culture is essential in the well-being of society, and I'm happy to participate and be part of it. So I'd like to say thank you for being here. Merci pour votre temps, et surtout, merci, maman.
Thank you for your time, and thanks, Mom. my wife and the children for taking the time to come today.
I'd now ask Marianne Wilkinson and Eli L. Shantiri to come forward, and I believe also Mark Gallivan, the Fundraising Committee Chair and Treasurer for the Ridgecraft Recreation Complex. And I think they may invite some other folks up. Chris, come on up. Named after your company, after Ridgecraft. Chris Single, welcome. Time capsules are one of two key fundraising initiatives getting underway for the Ridgecraft Recreation Complex in Canada North Ward, which is also going to serve Councillor Eli L. Shantiri's ward. The recreation complex is moving forward on schedule and is expected to open in November. And I know that Eli and Marianne and all of the residents of that part of Canada and West Carleton are very excited as they see the building rise from the ground. Les travaux de construction de complexe
The recreation complex is moving forward on schedule and is expected to open in November.
Will be a key community asset for the Canada community. The facility will fulfill a long-standing need for a major recreation complex to serve this rapidly growing community. Excitement is building as we continue to move closer to the estimated completion date in November 2013. Today I have the opportunity to participate in the Time Capsule Initiative, which is one of two initiatives with the goal of raising the required funds to pay for the additional features to the complex that were requested by the residents. So I've got my time capsule and I filled it up, so I've got to first pay Marianne the $20. There you go, to the treasurer. And I'm lucky I've got number one. So am I supposed to say what's in my time capsule? Okay, so I've got here a note from me to it's going to open in 25 years? 50 years, okay. I doubt if I'll be here, 50 years. Then I've got a City of Ottawa coat of arms pin, a senator's ticket stub, a beaver tail free coupon, City of Ottawa police coin, and 2 pennies, because this is the last year for pennies. So not that original, but it's all that fit in here. So I was going to try to get Doug Thompson's expenses in here, but it's not big enough. Sorry, Doug, I just had to. So I'm going to give this to Marianne and ask her to take the podium. There we go.
So one of the things when you purchase these, we pay $20 to get one, and that's our fundraising part of it. It's not a taxable receipt. You just give this as donation. By cash or check, that's the way we make the most money. And then the people who get them will get a certificate. So I'm going to give the mayor his certificate, which is certificate number 1. And that means that in 50 years, I won't be there either, I think, because some people think I might be, but I'd be 125 years old. I don't think so. Even my kids said, we'll be in our 90s. I said, well, your children will be there, and my grandchildren, maybe some great-grandchildren. Who knows if they do it. But this means the family will have a record of the number. Each capsule has a number on it, so that you can, when they open it up, if your family goes there, they can actually find the one put in by a member of your family. When Council approved the construction of the recreation complex to serve Canada North and West Carleton March, they also approved adding 2 lanes to the swimming pool, a skateboard park, and permanent turf soccer field, with the requirement for the community to raise the funds in the amount of about $2 million to provide the building parts of the operational funds and additional amounts for the lit permanent turf soccer field. So I took on the job of getting members of the community together, and we've had a number of them working on this over the last year and a half to raise more, and so far we've raised more than $600,000 in her, and thanks partly to Ridgecraft, who is a big donator. And I have another $175,000 that has been committed, but I haven't got it in the bank yet, so I don't count on it. But it should be coming forward soon. We need to provide the city with $850,000 before the building is finished, according to Marion Simlick, who told me that if I didn't have the money going into the construction of the building before it was finished, she'd take it out of my hide. So that's what we're working towards right now. Soccer Association has taken on the field and the lights, and they are just finalizing their final agreement with the city to pay the money, and they will get use of the field over the time that will give them their benefit back. So right now we have two activities. The time capsules you'll see here. We have 1,700 time capsules that will be going into a concrete vault in the floor of the recreation complex. The vault is already poured. It's there. It's a meter by a meter by a meter. And they've measured it so we'll get this in. I said to them, if your measurement is wrong and you don't have enough space, and we've actually worked out another plan to handle any excess that might have to go somewhere so that everybody who gets the time capsule will have it into the area. What you can do in mine, I've got in a letter to my, I don't know if it's my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren. I think my grandchildren will still be around then, so that's to them and their whatever they have as offspring. I've got I put in a memory stick because I haven't finished doing that yet, but I'm putting in stories of Canada and things in the memory stick. I've talked to the archives, and they said they usually have equipment to do things that are now out of date, which it will be then, so hopefully they can do that. But they do say sometimes even electronic things disappear in time. They are actually taking one of these for me and taking it to a lab in Gatineau to age it for 50 years to make sure these bamboo capsules will last the 50 years. They think they will. It's a very strong material, but if they come back and say it's 40, we'll just change the time, I think, so that people can get them. So if you I've put one of the cards around for council members that tells a little bit about the two fundraising. The other one is the pavers. The pavers are the stones leading up to the entrance door. And for anybody who gives a donation of $500 or more, which is a tax receivable donation, they will get their name put on a paver. We've checked with Revenue Canada. You can put a name on things, and that's as far as you can go. So we are starting that procedure, and we're looking at having a big event at the Aaron and Chris Phillips' new facility on I think it's the 17th of June. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Or you can just get a paver in the meantime. We also have some sponsorships left, so that we're working on those, but for now we're concentrating on those two different times of capsule. So I want to thank the Mayor and Councillor El Shantiri, who also has one. I think yours filled it for. Yours is one. That's yours. Oh, yes, two. Okay. And you get number. So we do have 1,697 left. So if you want one, you can actually go to my office. We have some there that people can do. You don't get one till you pay up front, of course.
I won't take as much time. I just want you to know I'm not Jim Watson. My name is Eli Alshantir, and I put $20 in my capsule. So just so you know, I didn't put pennies. I put $20 out of my own pocket, too. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Why don't we just get a group shot with the capsules here with Mark. Thank you for being the treasurer, and Chris, thank you for the generosity of naming. All right. There we go. Come on. Squeeze over there. Thank you very much, Councillors El Shantiri and Wilkinson, and thank you to our guests. Our final presentation is a little bit of a surprise, and I'd ask that Councillor Jan Harder come forward. She's not aware of this, so Jan, if you would come forward. And we'd like to ask Melanie Adams, who is the President and CEO of the Queensway Carleton Hospital Foundation, and Mr. Ron Prehogan, Chairman of the Board of the Queensway Carleton Hospital Foundation. They have a special little surprise, and we've got some members of Jan's family here. Where are Ron and Melanie? Come on over this way. Hello, Jan. And we normally don't surprise you, but this little surprise for some of your colleagues. And we're going to ask Ron and Melanie to come forward and say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ron Prehogan, Chair of the Queensway Carleton Hospital Foundation. With me is Melanie Adams, President and CEO of the QCH Foundation. We are pleased, very pleased, to be here today to present Councillor Jan Harder with a very special award. We're particularly glad some of her friends and family could join us for the celebration. Ever since the doors of the Queensway Carleton Hospital opened in 1974, good people in our community have been stepping up to help ensure our hospital is ready to provide top-notch health care to the growing West End population. Whether we're building new facilities for cancer care, childbirth, or the ER, or purchasing new surgical tools or an MRI, special community members have always understood the value of investing in good health care. These good people sometimes initiate their own campaign or organize special events to raise funds. They rally their friends, family, co-workers, neighbors, and colleagues to support them in their efforts. And in the process, they increase awareness of what it means to have a valuable asset like the Queensway Carleton Hospital in our community. They do this unselfish and noble work because they care. That's what community spirit is all about. From time to time, we're privileged to have support from someone with outstanding community spirit, the kind of spirit that should not go unrecognized or uncelebrated. And that is why our Queensway Carleton Hospital Foundation has established the QCH Community Spirit Award. When we thought of who the first recipient should be, there was no doubt that Jan was the one. I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Melanie Adams, to tell you why.
Good morning. What a privilege to be here this morning. And as a fundraiser, I just want to start by saying how heartwarming it is to hear the culture of philanthropy in City Hall. Almost every message this morning had to do with community rallying people and resources for some amazing causes. So thank you for everything that you do. I have had the privilege to work with Jan for almost a decade now. And when we looked at what would epitomize the Community Spirit Award recipient, and Jan's name just bubbled up to the surface immediately. Somebody who has the passion, the drive, the commitment, the heart behind the work that they're doing is the kind of person that we really wanted to honor and recognize. So Jan, you have family and friends here today. So please stand and celebrate Jan with me for a moment. This is the wind behind, underneath Jan's wings, I'm sure. Over the last number of years, Jan, through her passion, her commitment, her ability to bring people and resources together, have raised over $250,000 for the transformation of our Queensway Carleton Hospital. And I can't be more genuine in saying how grateful we are to her for all her work.
Jan, we are honored to count people like you among our family of hospital supporters. Like your Barhaven ward, the fastest growing ward in the city, our hospital has grown too by leaps and bounds to serve the community. And I can honestly say that our hospital would not be able to serve the South and West End communities like we do today were it not for the help and support of people like you. We now have new cancer facilities, and just last year opened a new ambulatory care center, a new rehabilitation center, a dialysis unit, and 10 new operating suites. New diagnostic imaging facilities are under renovation to be completed this year. All these changes are important so that our hospital can meet the needs of our community. Good people like you, Jan, and others who support the hospital make excellent health care a reality. And so, Jan, it is my privilege to recognize you as the first recipient of the Queensway Carleton Hospital Foundation Community Spirit Award. We have a lovely handcrafted journal for you, inscribed with these words: Unselfish and Noble Actions are the most radiant pages in the biography of souls by David Thomas. Please join me in thanking Jan for her outstanding community spirit and her many unselfish and noble acts. And for those of you who can join us, I invite you for coffee and donuts from Susie Q Bakery upstairs in the counselor's lounge.
Can I ask that my family come up here? All my babies. 2 of my daughters are here. My husband's here. Come on, everybody. We don't want this to be the longest council meeting just because it took you a while to get up here. Well, while they're coming up here, I mean, obviously, I'm shocked. That doesn't happen very often. Hi. Here's two of my hockey players here, still playing. My daughter Andrea, my husband Larry, my sister Carol. This is Jonah and Robert, Mary. Mary is the one that knows Keely. How did you keep that a surprise? How did Keely keep it a surprise? And this is our little Rachel. And this fall, we're going to have another grandchild, Larry and I. It'll be number 7. And that baby's going to be born at the Queensway Carleton Hospital, just like little Rachel was 2 years ago this month. You know, back when I was an Nepean counselor, we were tasked with a request from the hospital to contribute $1 million to a very special campaign that was ongoing. And I can remember the day of the vote and say, I called Franklin and I said, Ben, I don't know what to do. You know, I'm trying hard to be a fiscal conservative, but I know how important the Queensway Carleton is to us and to our community. And he said, Jan, you always go with your heart when it comes to the Queensway Carleton Hospital. It's our hospital, and Nepean has always taken care of the Queensway Carleton. So that night I was the swing vote, and our $1 million went forward. And Rick, you remember, well, Rick's not here, that's kind of the norm too. So, anyways, it's an inside joke. Rick will remember that with our Nepean Reserve Fund that we got $10 million of it. The people of Nepean decided that $2 million of that should go to the Queensway Carleton Hospital. So whether you're in Canada or whether you're in Nepean, whether you're up the valley, we are so fortunate to have our Queensway Carleton Hospital. And many years ago, my grandmother died at the Queensway Carleton. My dad came back. He's had a massive stroke. He came back. And how the Queensway Carleton not only helped him, but helped our family on that first Thanksgiving, Carol. Oh, Andrea, you were there. Elena, you were there. It was amazing. So it's more than a story about just the people that are patients, about the people that are family and friends to the patients. But about 9 years ago, Chris Parsons, all of us know Chris Parsons, she said, Melanie Adams would really like me to take you over and show you and talk to you. And I met Dr. Bell, and many of you know Dr. Bell, and I thought, you know what, I'm not a philanthropist. I am not comfortable asking people for money. But, geez, I wonder what I could do because I really want to. And so that's when the Jan Harder Golf started. And I look around the room, and even though you guys are all surprised, many of you that are my friends in here have attended every single one. And we have a fun time doing it, and we do it all for the right reason. And I'm so very proud to stand before you today. I will continue on supporting our Queensway Carleton Hospital. And I'm so happy to have you here to help me and Larry take care of all of our family. So thanks very much.
Well, congratulations, Jan, well deserved, and I'm glad we were able to keep a secret from you, so that was great. Madam Deputy Clerk, roll call, please. Oh, we're going to get to him in a minute.
Conseiller Manette.
Présent.
Councillor Blois.
Présent.
Councillor Harder.
Here.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor El-Shantiri.
Present.
Councillor Caudry.
Present.
Councillor Taylor.
Here.
Councillor Shirelli.
Here.
Councillor Eglai.
Here.
Councillor Deans.
Here.
Councillor Tierney.
Présent.
Conseiller Fleury. Councillor Clark.
Présent.
Councillor Holmes.
Here.
Councillor Hobbs.
Here.
Councillor McCrae.
Here.
Councillor Chernyshenko.
Présent.
Councillor Hume. Conseiller Blais. Councillor Thompson.
Présent.
Councillor Moffat.
Here.
Councillor DeRoche.
Here. Here.
Councillor Hughley.
Here.
Mayor Watson.
Here.
Le Karamet 10, Monsieur le Maire.
You have quorum.
Minutes of the 10th of April at 10 avril. Conseiller Fleury has a statement.
At the council meeting of April 10th, 2013, in an abundance of caution, I tried to indicate that at some point in the future, I may have a possible pecuniary interest in agenda item 12 and 13, Building a Livable Ottawa, comprehensive 5-year review of the official plan, public meeting, and Building a Livable Ottawa, comprehensive 5-year review of the official plan, employment lands. Depending on any specific application from a firm for which my father works for, subsequent to the meeting, the city clerk and solicitor's office suggested that I had not made this as clear as I am doing now. As such, there was no formal declaration filed for those two items.
Thank you. On the minutes of the 10th of April, carried. A declaration of interest, including those originally rising from prior meetings, déclaration de conflit d'intérêts, y compris ceux découlant des réunions antérieures. Councillor Fleury.
Je, conseiller Mathieu Fleury, déclare un conflit d'intérêts pécuniaire potentiel concernant le rapport du comité d'urbanisme 47A.567 à l'ordre du jour du Conseil. Demande en vue de modifier le 325 rue d'Alousie, propriété située dans le district de conservation du patrimoine du Marché-Bail et désigné en vertu de la partie 5 de la loi sur le patrimoine de l'Ontario. Zonage 137 et 141 rue Georges, 110 rue York, 321 rue d'Alousie et zonage 505 rue Preston, puisque mon père est employé de Claridge Homes et que Claridge Homes a affaire avec des points mentionnés ci-dessous.
Thank you. Are there any other conflicts? No. Communications is received. Councillor Thompson, you have a statement on Be a Donor.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I want to start off by thanking you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to take this opportunity to address my esteemed colleagues, city staff, media, and members of the public prior to our City Council meeting. This is a unique opportunity to bring to light an issue that is very important and dear to thousands upon thousands of our residents. During my 30 years of representing the political needs of the residents of Osgood Ward and the former township of Osgood, I've had the pleasure of meeting many people, and each and everyone have their own story to share. One of the most amazing and touching stories comes from Lynn and Dave Presley. They are truly remarkable people who selfishly give of their time, energy, and resources to a cause that is very dear to them. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Presleys for assisting me in the promotion of National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Week. There are endless facts that can be shared about the importance of organ and tissue donation. I just would like to, Mr. Mayor, list a couple of these that I feel are very important. Over 4,000 people in Canada are waiting for organ donations, more than 1,500 in Ontario. Approximately 762 people in Ottawa are on dialysis, and this does not include kids at CHEO. Every 3 days, someone dies waiting for a life-saving transplant. One organ donor can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of up to 75 others through tissue donation. 9 million Ontarians are not registered as organ donors, and in Ottawa we have a rate of 24% of people in our city who are registered donors. It's quite possible that everyone in the room is aware of someone who is awaiting a transplant. We all watched as Ottawa's own Helene Campbell traveled through a remarkable journey that helped promote organ and tissue donation. More recently, we witnessed the one-year anniversary celebration of her successful lung transplant. The cost and stress of patients and their families is very difficult to imagine. Almost 80% of those on the list for a transplant are waiting for a kidney. The cost of one-year dialysis can cost our health care system up to $60,000 per patient. Although our first response may be to express our sympathies for those situations and wish there was a way that we can help, the reality is that we can help. It only takes 2 minutes out of your day to register as a donor. In this day of social media, there is no excuse for anyone not to have the tools or time to sign up. It is very easy. It is as easy as visiting beadonor.ca and filling out your basic information. It is very important to note that the old green and white donor cards that have generally accompanied driver's licenses in the past are no longer valid. Let me repeat that again. The green and white donor cards are no longer valid. If nothing else, remembered from what I've said today, hope that message is clear. If you haven't already I sincerely ask that you take a few minutes out of your day to sign up beadonor.ca. I would also like to point out that volunteers have a booth set up here in Jean Pickett Hall, and they would be happy to assist you. And Dave and Lynn Presley are here, and maybe they just stand up and be acknowledged. Okay. And I just want to note that there at very many, a lot of community events getting this message out, and just recently they were at the Osgood Home and Trade Show, and I shared a portion of my booth with them. I don't know if that's allowed, but I did share my booth with them and do so at the Medcalf Fair. One organ donor can potentially save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of 75 others through tissue donations. Lastly, I would again like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and my council colleagues for their support in promoting National Organ and Tissue Donation Awareness Week. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Thank you to Lynn and Dave very much for all the work they do in the community on this important cause. This morning I want to congratulate also our partners at Events Ottawa, a collaboration between Ottawa Tourism and the City of Ottawa, who recently won a national award for their great work in promoting Ottawa as a destination for sporting events. L'Alliance Canadienne de Tourisme Sportif.
The Canadian Tourism Alliance received an award for the best activity of the year.
Gymnastics Championships, the World Duathlon Championships in August, and the 2015 FIFA Women's World Cup are all expected exceptional events that will help us prepare for our biggest hosting event ever, Canada's 150th birthday. And on a similar note, last week the Rink of Dreams won the Project of the Year at the 2013 Regroupement des Gens d'Affaires Gala, which Councillor Fleury attended. And this is a great honor for the Rink of Dreams, which had over 50,000 visitors. So congratulations to our partners, the Ottawa Senators, Events Ottawa, and Ottawa Tourism for these accomplishments. Regrets, Councillor Blais has advised he'll be absent from the meeting, and I know colleagues have talked to him. I want to thank again Councillors Monette and Blois for their help in helping Councillor Blais' constituents, and he continues to make good progress at the Rehabilitation Centre here in Ottawa. Motion to introduce reports. Motion portant présentation d'un rapport. Councillor Shirelli and El-Shantiri, please. Councillor Shirelli.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor El-Shantiri, that the report from Ottawa Community Housing Corporation entitled Ottawa Community Housing Corporation Repeal of Bylaw Number 7 Approval of bylaw number 8, confirmation of election of chair and appointment of directors. Community and Protective Services Committee Report 22. Planning Committee Reports 46B and 47A. Transit Commission Report 20 and Transportation Committee Report 26A be received and considered, and that the rules of procedure be suspended to receive and consider Planning Committee Report 48 because of the urgency of the items contained in the report.
Carried. Reports, Ottawa Community Housing Corporation, Société de Logement Communautaire d'Ottawa. Joanne Poirier is with us. If there are any questions, there's several report recommendations and nominations. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions? Carried. Carried. Thank you, Ms. Poirier, for the good work you continue to do, and congratulations, Councillor Wilkinson, for assuming the chair, and thank you to Deputy Mayor DeRush for chairing the last 2 years. City Clerk and Solicitor, Greffier, Bureau du Greffier, status update, Council inquiries and motions for period ending 19th of April. Council received this report. Received. Committee reports, Rapports Comité, Community and Protective Services Committee Report number 22, Rapport numéro 22 de Comité des Services Communautaires et de Protection. Item number 3, Strategy to Address Vacant Buildings. Carried. And thank you to all those who attended that committee meeting. Planning Committee Report number 46B, Preston-Carling District Strategic Direction, Orientation Stratégique visant le secteur Preston-Carling.
Would you hold that, please?
Hold that, and we have some motions, so we'll come back to that item. Item number 5, application to alter 325 Dalhousie Street, a property located in the Byward Market Heritage Conservation District designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Councillor Fleury has left his chair as an interest has been declared, and items 5 and 6, which is zoning 137, 141 George Street, 110 York Street, 321 Dalhousie Street, and Councillor Fleury has also declared an interest in that, should be dealt with together. And Councillor Hume has a motion that I'd ask he present at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was with respect to the zoning at the zoning report. And when committee dealt with it, we rezoned a part of 110 York Street. And as a result of some changes to the development with respect to the whiskey bar, which is next door, we no longer are required to rezone part of 110 York Street. So it's no longer necessary to change the zoning on that part. The zoning can stay exactly as it is today. So I'm moving that the zoning be adjusted to retain the zoning on a part of 110 York Street because a rezoning is no longer necessary. So we need to amend document 3 of the said report to replace with the revised document 3 showing the land at 110 York Street being removed from the zoning amendment, and that the bylaw be changed to reflect this change.
Okay, so we have a copy of this, and the map is on the back page, I believe, Councillor Hume.
That's correct.
The document. So are there any questions on item 5 or 6 before we deal with the motion? The motion's been put before us. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions sur cette?
Any questions on item 5 or item 6?
The amendment by Councillor Hume, seconded by Councillor Harder. Carried. On items 5 and 6 as amended, with Councillor Fleury outside, not sitting in his chair. Carried. Thank you. Item number 7, zoning 505 Preston Street, zonage 505 Rue Preston. Councillor Fleury.
Please, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and Councillor Fleury is declaring an interest in that, so we're going to hold that item and come back. Item 8, urban lanes, management policy and standards, rural urbain, politique de gestion et normes. And Councillor Clark would like to hold that, and this will be dealt with along with Transportation Committee Report number 26A. Item number 10, site plan approval, pilot project for building conversions. This is Whoops, sorry, my apologies. Zoning 193 and 200 Lees Avenue. Carried. Item number 10, site plan approval, pilot project for building conversions. This was dealt with yesterday, dealing with the interim control bylaw. Carried. Thank you. Next item is Transit Commission Report number 20, rapport numéro 20 de la Commission de Transport Commune, OC Transport's Annual Performance Report for 2012. Received. And then Transportation Committee Report 26A, which is urban lanes encroachments, that's been held. So we'll come back to that when we deal with the planning matter on the same subject. Bulk consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the bulk consent agenda? No. On the bulk consent agenda as presented. Carried. All right. So I think we're back on our first item. Item number 4, Preston-Carling District Strategic Direction. We have 2 motions that we'll put on the floor. First, Councillor Harder and Councillor Hume both have motions, and if they could introduce them at this time. Councillor Harder, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, mine is moved by Councillor Harder, seconded by Councillor Hume, and I'll go to the be it resolved that the following changes be made to the Strategic Directions Report. Delete the last bullet on page 12 of the report under the section of Built Form Strategy and replace it with the following. High-profile mixed-use development up to a maximum height of 18 stories will be permitted along the west side of Rochester Street, provided such development occupies the majority of the Rochester Street frontage between the east-west streets extending from Preston Street to Rochester Street with a minimum lot size of 1,500 square meters. And the second bullet is add an exception to the first sub-bullet under the section of projects that incorporate a high-profile building. And it read, with the exception of the projects along Rochester Street, the development site shall have frontage on public lands along 3 sides, which could comprise of a combination of streets and/or public open space. For example, frontage on 3 streets or frontage on 2 streets with 1 frontage on public-owned open space. That's my motion, Mr. Mayor.
We don't have it yet.
Okay, so that's seconded by Councillor Hume. And Councillor Hume, you have the next motion, seconded by Councillor Hart. If you could introduce that.
Mr. Mayor, I will introduce it, but I should say that these are motions are as a result of submissions that were made at Planning Committee by interested parties. And so what we've done is we've gone through them all, and where a valid concern has been raised that we believe we should adopt, we are changing the strategic directions to accommodate that concern. And Councillor Harder has moved one with respect to the assembly of land along Rochester Street. It was pointed out to us that that assembly could be incredibly onerous, so we should thwart development, which we believe is critical to achieving things like grocery stores and other amenities in that area. I am going to be moving that the Strategic Directions Report be amended to include a recommendation that requires both the Urban Strategies recommendations, which is the report, the Strategic Directions Report, recommendations, and the Richcraft proposal pertaining to the Dow Honda site be included as starting points for the work to be undertaken to develop a public realm plan, a mobility plan, and for the UDRP subcommittee. And that's a panel that will be convened to review these design submissions for sites in the Preston-Carling Strategic Directions area. And that the conclusions of these processes will determine the most appropriate scenario for development of this key site of the Preston and Carling district. And all of that's doing, Mr. Mayor, is putting, recognizing that a tremendous amount of work has gone into a proposal for the Dow Honda site, and we want to make sure that we are able to consider the work that's been done, because it is conceivable that they will have developed a better way to create mobility access to the transit station, for example, that's going to be at that location, that their ideas around separation distances are maybe a better way to achieve the goal of not having windows on buildings looking into other buildings, so that I'm watching people, or a resident is watching other residents put on their suit and things of that nature. So what we're saying here is, yes, we will recognize the work that's been done, and we will allow that to rise and move forward as we move forward to develop the public realm plan, the mobility plan, and as a framework for the design-driven process that we're about to embark on for sites in this Preston-Carling district. And I'm happy to speak to it in much greater detail, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blois.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I have a number of questions, and they relate to motions that I had introduced at Planning Committee, and in terms of how they've evolved here. And some of them are being, or some of it is being addressed by the motion that's being brought forward by Councillor Hume. But before asking those questions, I do want to make a couple of comments. Interestingly enough, I used to live on Preston Street, spent some of my more formative years there, both on the corner of Louisa and Preston and further down the street at 193. So it's an interesting evolution seeing the neighborhood as it unfolds. And I think the strategic directions and the ultimate CDP and secondary plan is the right way to go in terms of trying to put some rhyme or reason to the development. And but as we're getting there, as we're going there, of course, there are applications before us. There are developments already happening. Some of them are on the agenda today. So some of them have skipped ahead or leapfrogged the process. And but I do want to ask questions. So the two motions that I presented the other day, Mr. Moser, I appreciate the memo that you sent us and all the attachments in terms of trying to address the submissions that were made, the motions that were made. And I think motion 2 you're responding to with the Councillor Hume's motion. But I do want to go back to motion number 1, and I'm looking at it here, and it dealt with the Muse at the end of, I think is it Adelaide and Norman or whatever. And as I look at all the submissions that were made and the presentations, there wasn't anyone that came in favor of the Muse, and yet you're proposing to keep it in. My motion would have actually dealt with that. You're proposing to keep it in for further review, further study, whatever. And I thought that when the motion was being put into the review hopper, that we would come back with something more definitive than just let's keep reviewing.
Your Worship, I'll start with the answer, then I'll ask Ms. Sneddon to expand. But yes, our recommendation 3 in the report did speak to that item, in that we felt that it was worthwhile to us continue to pursue that. It certainly had been part of the strategic direction report that we had assistance from Urban Strategies to develop it, and we felt that it would be still worthwhile as we, over the next 6 months, get into the details of the secondary plan, the CDP, that we would continue to keep that in as an element. In the end, we may not be recommending it, but we felt it was worthwhile to keep that concept in the plan. We're also doing a public realm plan and a mobility plan, and both of those, I think we wanted to be able to look at them fully. We felt we could keep that in as part of, if you will, the background as we move forward with those two plans as well.
But in terms of the mobility in the area, can you clarify for me, is this essential to the, let's say, the movement of pedestrians, vehicles, etc.? Have there been traffic studies done for that quadrant that would address that? You need the mic.
Okay, now I'm on. Mr. Mayor, through you, we will be embarking on that mobility study that Mr. Moser just identified. So with this particular area, this is a significant change in the city, and we are embarking on a historical moment where we are increasing the density in this particular area. We're going to be adding thousands of people into this particular southwestern gateway to downtown. and we need the time to study the mobility of pedestrians, cyclists, and how we're moving people around.
Let me go back to my question. Have there been any traffic studies done for any of the applications that have come into your department?
Mr. Mayor, every application that comes in does have a traffic study associated with it. Those traffic studies are really focused on identifying the ability of the road network and the various transportation systems to accommodate the demands. But I think as Mr. Moser indicated, as Ms. Snedden indicated, what we're looking at here is framing out the overall directions for how this area will evolve in totality. And I think with that, it's the whole concept of mobility is something that is very high on the agenda that we really need to get a very good handle on, because really and truly it's the mobility, the ability for people to move through that area, not so much for the people to move in and out, but it's the ability for people to move through the area. That's a big driver behind the mobility study. And it's in that context that the Muse is seen as an opportunity that we strongly feel we should have a closer look at. We heard the concerns that were expressed by the community with respect to that particular item, but it's something, a concept that we think we should investigate further as we go through the process of developing the CDP and the secondary plan.
What I heard, though, at Planning Committee, and Councillor Holmes, who's going to follow me on the list here, I seem to recall that even she wasn't in favor of the Muse, but she can speak to that herself. My recollection is, and as I'm looking at the records here, there wasn't anybody other than Urban Strategies who seems to be in favor of this Muse concept. And I must admit, as somebody who is having lived there, having gone down the back path, I don't see the benefit of it. So what happened in the last couple of weeks since Planning Committee to today, that the review that you were going to do when this went into the hopper, the review that was going to happen, what happened and who, like, how did this influence get influenced, and how did we come up that nothing's really happened on it?
Mr. Mayor, through you. We had a significant amount of consultation that was completed on this particular project, and we did hear a significant amount of concern that was raised in regards to the Muse. How we responded to that in the report was that we wanted to do additional consultation. So we would like another opportunity to consult.
We're going to dance around in circles. I'm looking at the attachment 1 that you've provided, and it shows all the people who opposed the Muse. It doesn't show one person supporting it. At Planning Committee, I recall people getting up and speaking to this. I don't remember one person supporting it. So the consultation you did, what does that mean? Like, all the people that came in opposed, their consultation doesn't mean anything. Was there one person that came to you and said, absolutely got to have this Muse or these Muse or the Muses, whatever you call them, whatever the song is this week?
Mr. Mayor, through you, through a public open house, we did have comments that did favor the Muse. It wasn't a complete slam dunk that it was not something that we should look at. So I think just in terms of a balanced approach moving forward, it certainly is our recommendation that we continue to explore that as part of the CDP and secondary planning process.
Okay, I think I'm going to bring a motion forward and let Council deal with that. With respect to the medium profile in there, the Urban Strategies came forward with, as part of their report, talking about medium density adjacent to the railway tracks, and I do think it's a good concept in terms of how the layering would work. And are you dealing with applications right now in that area?
Mr. Mayor, we have one application that's adjacent to the O-Train corridor at the corner of Norman and the O-Train corridor. So that application is with us. It has not been processed to conclusion.
So what would the status of that application be? Is it because as we've dealt with that, like even today we're dealing with applications within this area. What would the status of this application be?
At this point in time, that application is being held in abeyance, and there are continuing discussions happening with the applicant on that to see exactly how they wish to proceed with the application, if they're looking to modify the development program or continue to proceed with the development program as they have initially submitted. So it's basically held in abeyance. It's not closed, but it is an active application.
But it wouldn't fit in with the, would it fit in with the medium profile form that we're talking about here?
In terms of the medium profile that was being recommended in the strategic directions report, which was looking at the potential of up to 9 stories along that edge, yes, it would. However, as part of the deferral of the consideration of the Muse, we also had recommended as part of recommendation 3 in the strategic directions report that we also defer and take a closer look at what is the appropriate intensity of development along that corridor.
So, just to be clear, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I do want to table a motion. It's already been sent through to the clerk's office, and I just want to pursue that a little bit. So, in terms of if we proceed with the staff report today, would that application just die, or does it proceed? Does it move, or like? I'm just trying to understand what corner we paint ourselves into here.
The application has been filed. It's a complete application. As a result of it having been filed, there are various remedies available to the applicant that they may choose to pursue. Clearly, the objective is for us to continue the dialogue and the discussion to try to come to some common understanding in terms of what the appropriate development program might be. But they clearly do have a right to bring it to the next level if they so chose. But that's their decision. So, as I indicated, it's very much an active application. We're still in discussions in terms of confirming what it is that the applicant wants to do with that application, and then we'll see where we go with it.
Okay. Well, Mr. Deputy Chair, I'll wait till after Councillor Holmes has spoken, and I will. The motion has been tabled, and we'll deal with it then.
Next speaker is Councillor Holmes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I want to make it clear that this strategic direction report is satisfactory to the Preston Street BIA and all the people who live in that area. They have agreed that the height belongs on Carling, that is where the intensification should occur, and that the low-rise residential and the low-rise Preston Street itself are to be preserved. Preston Street is the cultural and financial heart of the Italian community in this city. It is a major tourism draw for this city, and we need to make sure that that continues to be a strong, healthy commercial street. And the abutting neighbourhood, the actual heart of the Italian residential community, is a historic. It's a historic area. It's a blue-collar working people's area. That was the original reason for that community to grow where it is, and that needs to be preserved as well. So what we're looking at here today is an agreement on putting the height at Carling and the deferral of the discussion about the Muse, which I think is essential today. That we defer that matter of the Muse and the vehicular bridges over the O-train, that all be deferred for further discussion, that we have more time to talk to both the business community and the residential community, and we look at what is most appropriate for this area, and we do the studies that we need to do to make sure that this area is treated with the respect it deserves. So, Mr. Chair, I am certainly in favour of the 2 recommendations that we have before us today, and I'm in favour of the staff report that talks about the deferral of the Muse and the bridges over the O-train. I don't think that should be dealt with today. I think we need more time to deal with that, which is what the staff are suggesting, that we take the time to look at that area and not move in a precipitous manner today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Hume, please.
And we're speaking to the Blois motion, are we?
Well, you're actually speaking to everything right now. There's 2 motions, and I believe Councillor Holmes is supportive of the Hume-Harder motions and not of the
so
Blois.
I'm going to 3 things, I guess 4 things, Mr. Mayor. First of all, we're talking about, we've got some motions in front of us, but I don't want to lose the perspective that's being brought to the city with this strategic design report, because what it's fundamentally doing is setting a bar for development in the city of Ottawa, and in fact it's a very, very high bar. And you'll see that reflected when we deal with the 505 Preston site on how we are going to move forward there, whether it's shifting it from a process where we're reviewing designs to turning it around to a design-driven approvals process, where we will be looking for spectacular architecture and driving development towards that goal. So we're also looking for significant benefits. We want Section 37 benefits so that we can invest in the communities that surround the Preston and Carling area, so that we can achieve the type of community amenities that we want. We're also setting an incredible goal. We want 60% of the people who live in this area to move in and out of this area by public transit. No other neighborhood in the city of Ottawa has that type of goal. Therefore, mobility and how we move in and around that area is critically important. We're also trying to create development scenarios that will attract community amenities, and that's the harder motion, if you will, on Rochester Street. We're hoping that if we can frame development in that area, we'll get things like a grocery store that will come in and provide an anchor in that community. So we don't want to put restrictions in place that would, or requirements, not restrictions, requirements that would frustrate the ability for that development to change, or to be the catalyst for further change. We've got an exciting proposal from Richcraft that deserves fair and equal consideration. It's been in the process long before we started with Mr. Dark and his team to put this strategic directions report in place. And what we're saying is, there may be good ideas that come out of that, and we don't want to preclude that. And that's why we're saying, let's look at the strategic directions report and the Richcraft report equally, and hopefully the idea is that we will take the best from both, and we will have an exciting and important public realm, an excellent access to the public transit station that will convey people in and out of the city, or in and out of the neighborhood and into the city. How we structure the buildings, how far they are apart, and some of those guidelines that we're talking about, there may be better ways to do that, and we believe that Richcraft should have that opportunity, given the work that they've done, to present some of their ideas and not be constrained by regulatory intransigence. But the last thing I want to talk about is, and I think Councillor Holmes talked about it, is the Muse, and what our staff have said, that they want some time to be able to decide whether they like it, or whether they like it but it should be shaped and defined, and be able to put that in front of us. Right now, they're saying, yeah, we haven't broken on that. We don't know which way we're going to break. And the which way they break and what their recommendations to us will be are critical, because we're getting development applications in those areas. And breaking today and saying, no, we don't like that, without any planning expertise telling us either A, saying it's a bad thing and here are the reasons why, or saying that we recommend these muses under these conditions, puts us at an incredible disadvantage when dealing with those development applications. And that may be okay, but I don't think it is. This is an incredibly important part of that community, those small stub streets. And there are a variety of opinions on both sides. But what we need in front of us, before we make that decision to dispose of the urban strategies recommendation, is we need to know which way these people are going to break. Because ultimately, they are going to have to defend our decision when if we're at the Ontario Municipal Board, when we're evaluating those applications. And we're not prepared to do that, Mr. Mayor. And until we are, we shouldn't be making a decision in haste, because we won't be able to do this neighborhood justice. So I think it's important to follow the staff recommendation, because if we make a mistake here, it will be a fundamental mistake, and we don't want to do that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Clark, please.
Well, I noticed the clock went to 0 and it didn't start turning red, and I wondered why, because at that committee, it always tells you how much overtime there are. In any event, I support the position that Councillor Holmes has taken, and if it weren't so long, I might have even supported Councillor Hume.
Okay, so we've got, does anyone else, Councillor Blois, you're going to wrap up in your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to do some wrap-up on here, and I think there are some very valid comments that have been made, and certainly the ward councillor has, I think, sort of evolved the position that that she's taking on this. But the motion before us, and let me just, as we do wrap up on this motion, at committee there was a consensus around the table that let's table the motions, get staff to look at them, and come back for this council meeting with their responses and reactions and evaluations. I don't think the expectation, though, in that consensus was that we would just defer off into the netherworld somewhere. The expectation was that there would be reaction response. And I think that's what we've seen, both in the Hume motion and in the Harder motion, that staff has done that evaluation, has laid it out, and says this is the way forward here. I don't see in the motion that I presented at Planning Committee previously that putting this back wherever it was discussed and however it was deliberated on and how staff got involved, and I'm assuming you involved Urban Strategies and Mr. Dark on this, who would certainly have some good views and good opinions to offer. But in the end, I would have expected something a little more substantial to come forward to us saying, on the Muse, yes, it should absolutely stay or it should go. And I think sort of putting it off and saying we're going to do this mobility study, when I understand that there are some analyses, traffic and movement analyses that have been done for the area, not sure how that quite moves us forward. So the motion deals with that. The motion also deals with what's in the Urban Strategies report in terms of trying to achieve the density in the area, especially recognizing the transit that is being provided there, being placed between two transit stations on the O train. That is really where you want to build up your density. That's where you want to get your residents in, so that they, instead of using cars, they use the transit improvements that we're making with the additional station. If you're going to achieve that, and I think that's what George Stark recognized, saying if you're going to achieve it close to the trains, close to the tracks, achieve it close to stations, transit stations, and especially in between transit stations where people can go either way, where they don't need to. It's more convenient to go and use transit than it is to use your vehicle. So the motion does two things, and Councillor Holmes may want to split the motion. I'm not sure. She may want to divide the Muse from the rest of it. But so this basically talks about taking out the Muse, because there really has been no support anywhere for it, and also leaving in documents 1 to 8 in the report, which keeps the land use elements as they were presented in the Dark report. So that's it, Mr. Mayor, and if Councillor Holmes wants to split the motion, I respect that.
Okay, so we have 3 motions before us. Does anyone else wish to speak? I don't believe so. So just if I could get Councillor Hume and Holmes' attention. So just for a point of clarification, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Blois asked if you were willing to split any motion here, but my understanding is you're opposed to the Blois motion, as is Councillor Hume.
Blois motion in totality. I'm looking for support on the staff report that we have before us.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we have the first motion moved by Councillor Hume, or by Councillor Harder, seconded by Councillor Hume. On that, carried. On the second, which is by Councillor Hume, seconded by Councillor Harder, carried. And the third, yeas and nays have been called on Councillor Blois's motion. So yeas and nays.
Councillor Holmes?
No.
Councillor Hubley?
Yes.
Conseiller Fleury?
No.
Conseiller Blais? Councillor Tierney?
Yes.
Councillor Chernyshenko?
No.
Councillor Taylor?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor McCrae?
Yes.
Councillor Deans?
No.
Conseiller Manette?
Yes.
Councillor Hume?
No.
Councillor Egli?
No.
Conseiller DeRoche?
Yes.
Councillor Shirelli?
No.
Councillor Clark?
No.
Councillor Moffat?
Yes.
Councillor Hobbs?
No.
Councillor Harder? Councillor El Shantiri?
Yes.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Yes.
Councillor Caudry?
Yes.
Councillor Blois?
Yes.
Mayor Watson?
No.
12 yeas, 11 nays.
Sorry, what was the vote? Okay. Next, and on the report as amended, carried. Carried. On the report as amended, carried. All right, next item is zoning 505 Preston Street, zonage 505 Rue Preston. Councillor Fleury has declared an interest, and he is recusing himself. Councillor Clark.
On the previous vote, since it was that close, I'd move that we reconsider it at the next meeting.
Okay, if you could write that out. Okay, so zoning 505 Preston Street, zonage 505 Rue Preston. Councillor Fleury has recused himself. I believe this was Councillor Holmes who had asked for this.
Well, we now have an 18-story building situated right on the bicycle lane. Thank you very much, Council. I guess the developer did a good lobbying job on that one. On 505 Preston, we have a significantly high building in this area, which there is approval for from both the business community and the residential community. And we added, at the meeting, we added the ability to look at 1010 Somerset Street as a possibility for the city to meet with the federal government. That piece of land is up for disposal, and see if it's possible for us to acquire some of that land to increase Plouffe Park as part of the benefits that come with this proposal. As you see on page 145, there's a list of benefits that the community is interested in acquiring as a result of this development. Now, my estimate of the benefit that has been given to this developer as a result of the upzoning is about $150 million benefit given to this developer. We don't seem to have the capacity here at the city to determine what the public benefit is through large increases in zoning capacity. But my own estimate is about $150 million that we have given this developer as part of this rezoning. And as a result, the Section 37 money that we receive is $1.1 million, less than 1% of the benefit that we have conferred as a public benefit as a result of the upzoning. So we get about 0.6% worth of community benefit, the way we work out the formula for community benefit, which is looking at the uplift, looking at the land value increase to that uplift. A very conservative estimate as compared to Vancouver that has a different formula and receives much more in the way of community benefits. So with our $1.1 million that we see here, looking at the cycling and pedestrian bridge over Hickory, which is one of the top priorities for everyone in the area, we have now about $200,000 contributed to that $1.5 or $2 million bridge. We have $200,000 towards it. This increases our amount towards it to $660,000 towards a $2 million bridge. So we have some way to go just on that one item, much less looking down at all the other items that we have before us. If we want a multi-use pathway, the multi-use pathway that we have just built on the east side of the O-Train, which is in my ward, cost $4.3 million. So a multi-use pathway at $4.3 million and a cycling bridge, we are certainly nowhere near to being able to provide the money needed for the community benefits that you see in that very long list of benefits that we need in this community. So the fact that we have such limited amount of money coming in from these new developments is not going to help us very much in getting park space, in improving the green space in the area, in getting these pedestrian capacities when we want pedestrian and cycling improvements in this area, so that when we build that new station on the railway track, that we will make it possible for the goal in this area that we have so many people using alternate ways of transportation other than a private vehicle. So it is really difficult to see how we will ever be able to build the kind of community benefits that we need, that we have the least amount of park space in any ward in this city, and we are looking to see whether we can get a piece of 1010 Somerset, which is the federal government have up for disposal now. How are we going to do that when we have this very minor amount of money? $1 million may sound like a lot of money, but it is going to be not get us very far in the long list of public needs, improvements to the public realm that we need in this community. So I think it's peanuts compared to what the needs are. It's going to be a very long time before we can provide this kind of need coming from these kinds of developments if we continue to look at a very conservative way of measuring community benefits and how we procure those benefits from the developments that we have before us.
Thank you.
So we need to change that, Mr. Mayor. But in fact, the
Thank you.
development we see before us is acceptable to most of the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Holmes. Est-ce qu'il y a des autres personnes?
Any other comments?
Recommendation as amended. Carried. Carried. Item number, Councillor Clark has a motion. Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Hume. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, since that vote was 12 to 11, I think we should give it proper reconsideration. So I've moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hume, that the Blois-Tierney motion be brought forward to the council meeting of May 8th for reconsideration.
Okay, so reconsideration requires 8 votes, yeas and nays. This is Councillor Clark has moved, seconded by Councillor Hume, that the Blois-Tierney motion be brought forward to the council meeting of May 8th for reconsideration. So reconsideration requires 8 votes. Yeas and nays, please. If you'd like to reconsider, vote yes. If not, vote no.
Councillor Holmes?
Yes.
Councillor Hubley?
No.
Councillor Fleury?
Oui.
Councillor Blais? Councillor Tierney?
No.
Councillor Chernyshenko?
Yes.
Councillor Taylor?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
No.
Councillor McCrae?
No.
Councillor Deans?
No.
Councillor Manette?
No.
Councillor Hume?
Ironically, yes.
Councillor Eglai?
No.
Councillor Darache?
No.
Councillor Shirelli?
No.
Councillor Clark?
Yes.
Councillor Moffat?
No.
Councillor Hobbs?
Yes.
Councillor Harder? Councillor El-Shantiri?
No.
Councillor Wilkinson?
No.
Councillor Caudry?
No.
Councillor Blois? Mayor Watson?
Yes.
8 yeas, 15 nays.
Next item is item number 8, Urban Lanes Management Policies and Standards, Ruelle Urbain, Politique de Gestion et Normes, and we'll deal with Transportation Committee Report number 26A at the same time. I believe Councillor Clark asked that this be held. Councillor Clark, please.
Didn't want to turn around.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, it's not turning green part.
It's good. It's good. It's good. Speak.
Can I speak into the red mic?
Yes.
Okay. Essentially, this lane policy was stimulated by a request for backyard access, which, because of the legalities of it, in our law office opinion, we had to accept. So we went through a lot of discussion in the community, and at the end of it, the community could not agree. I think it was something like 3/4 of them wanted a closed lane and pay for it, but by and large, then you'd have a patchwork situation. Because of the legal obligation on the city, we have now provided access to the back of the second property in on that road. On the other hand, there are others down in Overbrook that are quite different. They've sold off pieces of them a long time ago, all kinds of other things. The policy itself that's in front of you has been supported by Transportation Committee and Planning Committee, and your humble councillor, well, maybe humble is the wrong word, but the point is that we need to establish an information system so that our claim to the title of the lanes is not compromised by random expropriation by the abutting landowner. On the other hand, we have to have a consideration that since some of these things have been in place for a long, long time, that we must have a method for the abutting landowners to buy in. I believe those lands are of negligible worth. You can't develop on a 10-foot by 30-foot in the middle of subdivision. You wouldn't have any road access to them anyway, so it's not developable. The value is negligible, but we need to get some clear-cut idea on what this means. And in my view, there's two things we need to look at. One is whether or not a neighborhood improvement like a local improvement could be put in place, and I think we need to give direction to seek that, so that if they want to have a block party to determine what to do with this, that they know what the costs are. Similarly, I think since the city is a piece of all of this, the city should pay for a lane survey on all of the current existing unused, untraveled laneways. In other words, the city should pay for the survey as opposed to, say, 24 landowners on one block, each having to pay for a survey. I think that's unrealistic to demand that of them. So that I thought that I would put a motion forward to friendly amend this, but the more I thought about it, the more I believe we just need to get some movement in the direction on how to solve the problem, not necessarily tell people that, well, if somebody 3/4 way up the lane decides to have rear access, we're going to tear out all those fences, all those sheds, all the hydro poles, all that other stuff, and access it. Well, we don't want to do that particularly. I don't think it's a good public policy. So I think what we really want to do is to survey those lanes, set a dollar value on the abutting properties, and then proactively go to the public to see whether or not we can achieve an appropriate solution. And so I would like to ask leave of council to insert something of that nature in the motion as opposed to a friendly amendment. I don't want to amend this motion because this motion does what it does. It protects the city. But I do want to see the city take positive action. And whether I'll ask you, Mr. Mayor, whether we should do that through committees again as opposed to try to do it at council.
Okay, I don't know if the city solicitor heard Councillor Clark. Is someone else going to, Mr. Mark? If you could respond to Councillor Clark's inquiry, and then we have Councillor El-Shantiri.
Mr. Mayor, the city solicitor, the treasurer, and myself are having a brief discussion. Councillor Clark was kind enough to advise in advance what his question would be, or what the area it is that he's be going. We can certainly look at options by which it would be possible to assist landowners in acquiring lanes, which I think is where the council wants to go. It's not clear that it would be financially advantageous to the landowner to actually go through the city. They might be able to achieve, I see this information from the treasurer, it might be easier for them to get a better interest rate that they could achieve on a private mortgage. But if council wants us to look at it, of course, we're willing to do so.
Councillor?
Yeah, that's what I want to try to achieve. And the other part of it, though, the surveying one, I guess that would have to also go through committee, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Mayor, that would have a financial obligation to the city, and so there would have to be funds found somewhere for staff to be in a position
but you have the big bucks sitting right next to you.
That would have to go back to committee because there is no budget for it at this moment. So you would be reallocating budgets, which is the purview of council. So I would recommend that a report be brought back forward to either planning or FEDCO, outlining the costs and where the funds could be transfer fund if there were any available.
Yeah, I think it's our property. We need to survey it.
Okay, so we have Councillor El-Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I know you were busy, Mr. Mayor, but I think both advice come from legal and finance. This motion should go to committee. We need to understand what's the cost of it and where we're going to pay for from. So I will send it back to committee, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, you're proposing the whole report go back to committee, or because Councillor Clark hasn't put forward a motion yet. Councillor Clark, do you actually have a motion? So he's not following through. Okay. So he's going to bring, if he wants to bring anything, he's indicated he'll bring it to FEDCO. So thank you for that suggestion. So on item number 8, urban lanes, we'll deal with that, and 26A as well, which is from the Transportation Committee. On item number 8, carried. And item number 12, urban lanes encroachment, from Transportation Committee Report 26A. Carried. A motion to adopt reports. Councillors Shirelli and El-Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just finding the right one. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor El-Shantiri, that report from Ottawa Community Housing Corporation entitled Ottawa Community Housing Corporation, repeal of bylaw 7, approval of bylaw 8, confirmation of election of chair, appointment of officers, Community and Protective Services Committee Report 22, Planning Committee Reports 46B and 47A, and 48, Transit Commission Report 20, and Transportation Committee Report number 26A be received and considered, be received and adopted as amended.
Carried. Carried. Motions requiring suspension of the rules. We have a motion by Councillor Blois, seconded by Councillor Eglai, with respect to Councillor Tierney being our representative for FCM on suspension. Carried. Councillor Blois.
I'm looking for the motion, Mr. Mayor.
We can put the motion up on the screen, please.
I got it. It's buried under all those other motions. Rules of procedure be suspended to consider the following motion due to requirements and timelines established by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, represents the interests of municipalities on policy and program matters that fall within federal jurisdiction, whereas the FCM annual conference is being held from May 31st to June the 3rd of this year, during which time the AGM will be held and include the election of FCM Board of Directors, whereas the FCM requires a motion confirming the city's representative. Be it resolved, therefore be it resolved that Council endorse Councillor Tim Tierney as the City of Ottawa's representative to FCM.
Carried. Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Next is suspension of the rules. Councillor Hume and Deans with respect to the motion of MAP going to FEDCO at a different date on suspension. Carried. Councillor Hume. And this is seconded by Councillor Deans.
Yes, this is on deferral of the we had indicated at our last council meeting that we would be taking the issue of the MAP program to the next FEDCO meeting, and that was the direction. Unfortunately, our staff are really being quite diligent in trying to get an understanding of where the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation is, and as a result, we're not going to be able to make it to the next meeting of the committee, which is the 7th of May, and as a result, we're looking for a deferral till the 4th of June. And I'll apologize to Council. I should have structured this motion better so that I didn't have to come back to you and give that direction, and I'll make sure that we do that a little differently, because I understand it's taking up Council's time to consider a simple deferral to the next meeting of the committee.
On the motion, carried. Thank you. Any other motions requiring suspension of the rules of procedure? Councillor Fleury.
Seconded by yourself, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by myself. This is on a federal member of parliament's request for National Fitness Day, and there's a time sensitivity. So on suspension, carried. Councillor Fleury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the participation rates of Canadians engaging in health physical activities has declined, while inactivity and obesity continues to rise in Canada. Whereas health and fitness ought to be promoted and embraced by Canadians of all ages and abilities, and whereas many Canadian cities have taken up the challenge of encouraging and promoting physical activity, including Calgary, Kamloops, Prince George, Yellowknife, and whereas the City of Ottawa promotes active and healthy living through a number of initiatives, including the freezing of recreational fees for 3 years in a row, an annual Try It campaign for city recreation programs, a series of I Love 2 programs to promote swimming, skating, soccer, and other sports, and the Healthy Eating Active Living strategy. And whereas the City of Ottawa branches, Ottawa Public Health, Parks and Recreation, Cultures, Service Departments, and others work together on improving the access to physical activity for residents, and whereas Parks and Recreation and Culture Services Department offers a multitude of recreation and leisure programming that promote health, physical activity, and fitness, therefore be it resolved that to encourage participation and the promotion of physical activity in Ottawa, that we acknowledge the National Health and Fitness Day in Ottawa as the first Saturday in June annually, starting this year on June 1st, 2013. Therefore be it resolved that as a step to increase participation and enhance the health of residents, that the City offer a 2-for-1 public swim and a 2-for-1 public skating at swimming pools and arenas directly operated by the City of Ottawa for the 2013 National Health and Fitness Day. Therefore be it resolved that the City offer free public swim during one of the existing June 1st sessions at the new François Dupuis Recreation Centre, at the Lower Town Pool, at the Walter Baker Sports Centre, on all this on the National Health and Fitness Day.
Thank you, Councillor. On the motion?
Carried.
Carried. Thank you. Any other motions requiring suspension of the rules? Notices a motion for consideration at subsequent meetings. Councillor Taylor. Seconded by Councillor Hubley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a notice moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hubley, with relation to a deferral of response to taxi-related motions of April 2012. Whereas on April 11, 2012, City Council approved various amendments to the taxi bylaw and directed staff to report back late in 2012 with information on specific taxi-related inquiries. including options for restructuring taxi plate fees and options to determine how service demands could be met, among other fee and regulatory issues. And whereas Council subsequently approved on August 29th that staff be given further time to report back, and whereas staff have determined that evolving matters in the areas of limousine regulation, deterrence and enforcement of unlicensed or bandit taxi cabs, and the provision of paratransport services will all have an impact on the taxi industry as a whole and on service demands specifically, and therefore additional research is required to coordinate these areas for further public consultation and should be undertaken, particularly with stakeholders in the accessibility community and the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And therefore be it resolved that the response by staff on various taxi-related motions of April 2012 be further deferred, and be it further resolved that the General Manager of Emergency and Protective Services be directed to strike an internal working group among bylaw and regulatory services, transit services, city clerk and solicitor department, and other affected areas of the city to review the April 11, 2012 taxi-related inquiries and the evolving areas noted above, and to conduct further consultation with stakeholders within the industry, the accessible community, the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and the public on these issues, and to report back when completed with information and recommendations, if any, on these issues. And that is a notice, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we'll deal with that at the next meeting. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Holmes on a waiver of permanent signs. Notice of motion.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is about the Somerset Street BIA wanting to paint murals on their glass windows, on their front windows and their doors, in conjunction with the Ottawa art group. And so our bylaw does not allow it. Paintings to be on front windows and doors. It can only be on sides of buildings. So this is a request to amend that bylaw to allow the BIA to paint, in conjunction with the Ottawa School of Art, to paint their windows and doors to beautify the area.
Okay, we'll deal with that at the next meeting. Thank you, Councillor Holmes, seconded by Councillor Fleury. Are there any other notices of motion? Est-ce qu'il y a des autres avis de motion? No. Motion to introduce bylaws. Councillor Shirelli and El Shantiri, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor El Shantiri, that the bylaws listed on the agenda under motion to introduce bylaws, third reading and three readings, be read and passed.
Carried. Carried. Confirmation bylaw. Councillor Shirelli and El Shantiri, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor El Shantiri, that the following bylaw be read and passed to confirm the proceedings of Council of 24th of April 2013.
Carried. We have one written inquiry. Councillor McCrae, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Can City staff please provide City Council with a summary of the legal and procurement requirements with respect to municipal construction projects and the use of financial penalties and/or liquidated damages when such projects are late or not up to standards?
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I do apologize. Councillor Fleury has a written inquiry.
Yep, the subject for this one is major event pageantry. Ottawa is attracting and hosting a large number of major sporting events and cultural events through the work of our major events office staffed by the Economic Development Branch, Economic Development and Innovation Department, and the Event Central Unit in the Parks and Recreation Department. These events make numerous requests to place banners and pageantry on streetlights through the city despite their geographic location, which often requires the temporary removal of banners that demarcate business improvement areas. Additionally, two events may request pageantry at the same time and at the same place, which would cause impacts for the organizations putting on these events. In this slide, could staff explain what the decision-making process is within the city and who is accountable for the approval of these banners and who acts as the final judge when there are competing priorities? Furthermore, what policies and practices exist for determining the geographic extent of the pageantry for major events? Example, if the major event can only post banners in community where the event is taking place.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor, I went a little quick, I think, for Councillor Chernachenko on the interim control bylaw, and with Council's indulgence, he asked if he could have a minute or two just to comment on that, because that was something he worked with Councillor Hume. Is that agreeable? Yes. Agreeable. Councillor Chernachenko, please.
Thank you very much, and I will keep it short. I suppose the fact that it went by so quickly, I barely had the chance to say, can I make a comment on this, is a tribute to the fact that you, my colleagues, have recognized that there is something going on here which is very inappropriate and had to be frozen, if you will, so that our staff have the time to do the work, to put in place a better regime, a better mechanism, a better planning process. We have very good work going on with the official plan refresh, and now at the second phase of our mature neighborhoods residential infill study. And at the end of that, we were going to be in a better place to stop the worst kinds of infill and guide us towards the best kind. But in the meantime, way too many building permits were being issued simply because they were allowed. There was really no way, no means by which staff were able to stop those. So what we have done, I want to pass on to you. Some of you will have seen the emails because people were copying everyone. But I've been deluged, I believe Councillor Fleury has as well, by thank you emails. People saying thank you for doing this, recognizing that we have done something important here. And albeit just one specific aspect of our housing stock, of our built form in this city, it's an example of where we have acted. I thank you for that, and I look forward to working with our staff to put together that better plan and guidance documents for good infill. And in the end, the final point to the development community is I actually think this will put you in a better place in the end. That term developer has a very bad name for many people in many places. If we can provide much clearer guidance as to what is appropriate infill, you can go forward and do what you do and make your profit, but with far less of the community angst and often outrage that we're seeing now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. And I should have pointed out at the beginning, Councillor Caudry has a new look because he was brave enough to have his head shaved, and I helped shave it, and raising, I don't know, how much did you raise for cancer research, Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the recognition. More importantly, thank you for helping to shave my head. We raised just a shade over $500.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Bravo. Councillor Shirelli, adjournment, please.
It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor El Shantiri. The proceedings of Council of 24th of April 2013 be adjourned.
Carried. Carried. Adjourned. Merci. Thank you.